Which brings me to the Iowa Caucus.
Yeah.
Which is be held on Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, the 3rd of January. For those outside of the Gitmo Nation of United States, the way it works is we have to first select our Republican nominee, because of course there's only two parties. No one else can win in this X Factor. And very interesting to see that the fix is now completely in, as the votes will be counted at an undisclosed secret location because they're afraid the Occupy movement might try to mess it up.
What Occupy movement?
The state
they're
party.
in New York. They're in various large cities. What are they doing in Iowa?
Well, they say that the Iowa State Republican Party representatives say that we're going to count the votes at a secret location off-site from the GOP headquarters because activist groups, including the Occupy movement, had indicated they'll attempt to interrupt in the closing days before the caucus. Which means, I guess they're going to go phony up the votes. Isn't that what that means? I mean, how is this transparent?
It doesn't sound right.
Well, it's not only right, it's fixed. It's rigged. They're taking it off. So we're going to count it over here. 1 for Rim, 1 for Ron Paul, 3 for Mitt. 1 for Ron Paul, 3 for Mitt. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be one big phony.
Okay, let's make some predictions. I got the new red book, but it's downstairs, and I'm not going to go down and get it. I'll have to write on a piece of paper.
Prediction? Oh, I can give you the prediction right now.
Okay, give me your prediction.
Okay. Mitt Romney wins. Number 2, Rick Santorum, because they've just all of a sudden he's surging in the polls, so the fix is in on him. They got to have a buffer between him and Ron Paul. Ron Paul will be 3rd, even though of course he will win the election, the nomination, the caucus. He will actually win it, but they're going to fake it up, and it'll be Romney, Santorum, and then Ron Paul. And have you noticed, by the way, how all of a sudden on CNN and Fox, especially Fox, they've got the beautiful black women now. You never see black women on Fox. All of a sudden they're talking about how important the black vote is.
No, that's not true. There's a lot of black women.
I have not seen that.
Last week's clip, the woman that was jacking away there.
But I'm seeing like panels of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of blacks on Fox.
Okay, well, maybe that's my own color blindness then, that I just don't even see it.
Well, you don't watch Fox as much as I do.
No, I do. No, correct. Anyway,
I tend to watch Anderson Pooper.
He's so hot. Anyway, the Iowa Caucus is not...
I have two possible outcomes to predict.
Go ahead.
One, Ron Paul wins outright, and the whole thing is marginalized. And Romney comes in second.
Right.
The second one is Romney wins by a hair over Ron Paul, showing that he has the ability to win in a place like... There is no way Ron Paul comes in 3rd.
Okay, we shall see. I like your first prediction, because if we listen to the mainstream media, I have a little compilation clip of the Iowa caucuses being irrelevant, insignificant, and not important. So I think that plays right into your prediction number 1. Ron Paul sweeps it, but it doesn't count.
But how much are the Iowa caucuses really like the rest of how we vote in America? How democratic is the Iowa system?
Rachel.
If Ron Paul wins, some Republicans are going to say, who cares about Iowa?
Do you think that it is American in the modern era that Iowa gets to go first?
And I think we might actually be seeing something bigger in the works here, the demise of Iowa.
The hard truth here is that Ron Paul winning Iowa itself would not matter very much.
If Ron Paul wins here, what then?
Well, the Ron Paul people are not going to like my saying this, but to a certain degree it will discredit the Iowa caucuses.
But I wonder if there is an extent to which the organizational principle of Iowa does make it not only less democratic, less representational, but a little bit more corrupt. I mean,
if Ron Paul wins, then what?
Then Iowa
go to New Hampshire and start from scratch.
Iowa doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Iowa doesn't matter.
Start from scratch in New Hampshire.
Totally agree with that.
It would make the caucuses mostly irrelevant, if not entirely irrelevant, if Paul wins.
That result would also mean roughly nothing to the rest of the presidential race.
He doesn't like Ron Paul, and he's not going to like Iowa if they have the bad judgment to vote for this guy.
All this noise is going to come to an end relatively soon. Maybe Ron Paul wins Iowa, but who cares? Soon, maybe Ron Paul wins Iowa, but who cares?
Yeah, I'm going to say that House Democrats are the winner this week.
Iowa is not only a weird system for picking somebody, they are a non-representational system.
Okay, so you get the point.
Okay, now let me make a couple of comments, which now brings me to another thought, which is that the reason it's possible that there's enough Ron Paul loyalists within the Iowa system that that's the reason they're grabbing the voting boxes and taking them to a secure location to protect Ron Paul if he does win.
What do you mean to protect him?
To take the votes away from all the local guys where you might have local corruption or anything that could skew the vote. The Ron Paul people now have the boxes and they will make it a legitimate vote.
That's an interesting theory. I of course thought completely negatively, but you're thinking non-bogative. You're thinking this is to protect it to make sure he wins.
To make sure he wins if he does indeed win.
Right.
Now I want to make a couple of, or at least one comment. Rachel Maddow, who should be ashamed of herself, what is her problem with Ron Paul? She's the one of all the commentators on MSNBC who is pounding the hate Ron Paul drum the loudest.
Yeah, she's a mind-controlled MK Ultra lesbian model.
Douchebag.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing was when you ran that, which is all the commercial networks, PBS did it kind of a little differently on the NewsHour show. You can run, it's the Iowa Rundown clip, and what it was is it sounded as though they're going to. When I started recording, I said, "Oh, this is good. This is another negative thing. They're going to pound Ron Paul." But the two commentators, which is Brooks and this other guy, a Democrat and a Republican, actually turned it around and made it seem as though Iowa was even more important with a bunch of interesting statistics about the thing. It's a little long of a clip, but it really stopped this Lehrer in his tracks, and he had to give in.
Both of you, beginning with you, David, should Iowa matter as much as it appears to at this point? I mean, as we're talking about it, the whole world is talking about it right now. Should they be? Is this the way to choose candidates for President of the United States by starting with Iowa?
Yeah, I still think so. This is still my favorite place to cover a political race. It's not the way it used to be. It's not just George H.W. Bush driving around in a station wagon with one aide and maybe a press person. Now there's clumps of people, there's big buses. But it's more retail. The people are really run through their paces. Rick Perry tried, couldn't make it here. Michelle Bachmann, we saw what happened to her among voters here. I think it's still a good testing ground. Is it the most representative state in the country? Maybe not, but I still think it's a practiced, knowledgeable electorate who are very good at putting candidates through the ordeal of running, and I do think it's a legitimate way to screen out candidates and give a couple a chance to move on.
You agree with that, don't you, Mark?
I do, Jim. I mean, Iowa is unrepresented. It has the fourth highest literacy rate of the 50 states. It has the third lowest divorce rate. It has the sixth highest high school graduation rate, higher than the coastal smug states of Connecticut, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, Massachusetts, Oregon, Washington. And the people take it quite seriously.
The coastal smug states.
I love that, don't you?
Yeah, that's very good. Well, it's funny because that was PBS, you said?
Yeah, that was the NewsHour. I thought it was very objective. I gave them kudos for that.
I think MSNBC just has some marching orders because this is from, I think, this morning or yesterday.
Our new NBC News Marist poll shows Ron Paul running neck and neck with Mitt Romney. But there are also plenty of Iowans who have big problems with the Texas congressman. More than 40% of likely Iowa voters believe that Paul is an unacceptable nominee, putting a concrete ceiling on how high he can climb in the Hawkeye state. NBC political reporter Domenico
So unacceptable, 41%, whatever this poll is, unacceptable. And then they go to a guy who's at a newt rally. He is the expert. He's at a newt rally with people with newt signs behind him.
Naro joins me now. Thank you so much. Lots of activity going behind you. I know where you are. You're in Des Moines.
Absolutely.
As there is a newt event underway right behind you, about to start, I guess. So let's talk about Ron Paul, though. So here he is at the top of the polls, only a few days to go. And so some people obviously love him. And so how can he have so many powerful negatives amongst Iowa voters? And what are they that make him so...
Wouldn't it have been cool if she had said powerful bogatives? That would have been great. Ah, damn.
Yeah, we'll get it in there.
Unacceptable in their view.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Last night, even, I was out at a Romney event, and a lot of the people there were about 400 people or so, but a lot of them were undecided. I talked to some of them to see what they thought, and some of the people, most of the people who said the reason that they're actually looking at Romney now, even though they might like other candidates and they had been with Herman Cain, they said, look, we don't want Iowa to go down in history as having voted for Ron Paul.
So the thing I wanted to lead up to, though, is I also have a compilation of the mainstream media talking about Iowa in 2008. Now, do you think that Iowa counted and was it important in 2008 in the previous election, John?
Well, it always has an impact on all the elections.
Our top story for a moment, and to be honest, it's very likely tomorrow night's top story and the next night. The once every 4 years Iowa caucuses. We're all watching what happens there because so much rides on the people of Iowa.
For a state with fewer than 3 million residents, Iowa packs a big political punch.
It is not only the first test, it's the first real test after months and months of talking.
Iowa caucus voters do care about who's going to win in November. Iowa caucus voters do care about who's going to win in November.
Iowa will play a huge role in the 2008 race.
This is the big day in Iowa. It is the big caucus day in Iowa.
You have more influence on who the next president of the United States is going to be than anybody else.
So what effect, if any, do you think that tonight's numbers, the results of the caucus are going to have on the upcoming primaries in New Hampshire and South Carolina?
Huge. I mean,
And that, as clearly as anything else, speaks to the importance of the Iowa caucuses just 6.5 weeks from today.
And it just goes on and on. It was really important.
What's funny is some of the same commentators that are now poo-pooing
exactly.
it. This is, and one, by the way, should be ashamed of himself besides Rachel, is Chris Wallace. I mean, what is his problem?
They're all, John, this is why we...
It's not a question I want you to answer.
Okay. All right. This is why we do a media assassination. We just want to show you that it's all bogative. It's all bogative. The whole thing is rigged from beginning to end. And I got to say, I love Ron Paul, who once again this morning on Candy Crowley, which is just a funny show, State of the Union, Candy Crowley.
What is she? Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I know. Let's not talk about physical appearances. Let's just say she wouldn't make it on Fox. Once again, Ron Paul said that he says, I will never unequivocally state that I will not run third party. But I think he's never ruling it out. But I think his whole idea is just to keep propagating. Maybe Rand has to grab the baton or something. Maybe that's the idea. But left, right, or whatever, he has woken a lot of people up. He has changed some mindset.
Well, he's gotten his memes into the mainstream.
Yes. And the Fed.
And that's the key. And I think that's really going to be the net result of the whole thing, because since the beginning, I've always thought the thing was rigged. But I'm now beginning to think he's going to still win Iowa, and which seemed apparent. But what I get a kick out of is the fact that if you remember these, I think we had clips of it where this douchebag on CNN was talking to somebody. He said, "Well, don't do anything you want. Go talk to Sarah Palin when she shows up. Just don't even bother with Ron Paul of all things." Then he laughed. He says, "Ha ha ha! I don't have to talk to Ron Paul because he's an idiot."
Let me see if I can find that.
It's almost a while back, but. It was like, wow, what kind of, why didn't they just maintain that style of just shutting up about Ron Paul? Now they're all freaked out and they're wringing their hands over him, and then they're criticizing him for stuff he's got nothing to do with.
Well, it's there's fear. There's fear. I mean, I still think that the black and Latino vote comes out and they just hammer it, and they just push this guy all the way through. I'm certainly hoping.
Well, you're not going to get that with guys like Morgan Freeman.
Was that one of your clips, you think, that Palin clip? Palin will run or won't she? Was that it maybe?
No, it was when their bus was going to show up somewhere. And
Which brings me to the Iowa Caucus.
Yeah.
Which should be held on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, the 3rd of January. For those outside of the Gitmo Nation of United States, the way it works is we have to first select our Republican nominee, because of course there's only two parties. No one else can win in this.